Hello everyone, welcome to Clinosol Research YouTube channel. One more topic, one more session on interview preparation question, which is on clinical data management. It is part 4. Part 1, 2, 3 are uploaded in Clinosol Research YouTube channel. Please go and watch. Today we are going to discuss about 5 more questions which are repeatedly asked in interviews for clinical data management. So without any delay, let's jump into the topic, interview preparation question for clinical data management, which is part 4. So there are 5 questions which we have chosen for this topic. One is what is CCG, which is CRF completion guidelines. The second question is what is mapping. The third question is what are dynamics. Give some examples of dynamics. And what are manual queries? Give some examples of manual queries. Give some examples of the manual queries and how the outcome of data will be reviewed. Also will be discussed in today's topic. So first one, what is the CCGs? Now, CCG's full form is CRF completion guidelines, and these guidelines are particularly used by the investigator. Now, the CRFs has to be completed by investigator. The data has to be collected from the subjects, and it has to be entered into your CRFs. But the CRFs are electronic format, and there are some challenges that investigator might face when entering the data into the case report form, which is eCRF. So for the supporting purpose of the investigator to explain about the what data should be entered and how the data should be completed in case report form, we will collect or we will give information which is your CRF completion guidelines, which is CCGs, CRF completion guidelines. The CRF completion guidelines is a document that assists the investigator. So it assists or it supports the investigator to complete the CRF, to complete the CRFs, how the CRF has to be completed electronically, step by step. So step 1, step 2, step 3, what has to be done in a manner and drafted concurrently. So now it is drafted along with the case report form. And once the protocol is finalized and protocol CRF are developed, the protocol and CRFs are ready, concurrently or parallelly, the CCGs can be developed, which gives instructions to the investigator for completing of case report forms. So now CCGs ensures, what is the significance of CCGs or CRF completion guidelines is they ensures or assures that the accuracy and the completeness of clinical trial collected data. So accuracy and completeness of data can be done with respect to your CCGs or CRF completion guidelines. Now, what are mappings? So what are mappings? Mappings is more important for us in terms of clinical data management. What are mappings? Now, data mappings are process of matching the fields from one systems to other systems. So one system to other systems, the data is getting mapped from here to the other place. Say, for example, if you want to map BMI from visit 1 to visit 2 or visit 3 or visit 4, then it is mapped from one data set to the other data set. Now, this is what we call it as mapping of the system. So data mapping is a process in which the matching fields from one data sets to the other data sets gets mapped. In the first step, to facilitate the data migration or data integrations and other data management tasks, the mapping will be used. So mapping from one system or putting one system data to the other systems, the same data points, then it is considered as mapping. So data mapping is a process matching the fields or exactly putting the data to the other systems from one data set to another is called as mapping. And it is an important step to facilitate the data migrations or data integrations or other data management tasks is called as your data mapping. And next question, what are dynamics? Give examples of dynamics. So now dynamics is the word itself is a dynamic word which does not be active, which gets active when something pushes it. So it's not dynamic, but if something pushes, it becomes dynamic. So now what are dynamics? The dynamics are the one which gets triggered based on satisfaction of A criteria or B criteria or C criteria. So say, for example, if the criteria is matched, then the form or visit or the items get triggered. Then it is called as dynamic form or dynamic visit or dynamic item. So now triggering of forms or visits based on satisfaction of some criteria is called as dynamics. Now, best example is if the data of visit is completed, then trigger ICF form. So if data of visit of that particular visit is completed, then ICF form gets triggered. If data of visit is blank, then ICF form does not get triggered. So now you have test data also to test this particular format, that how you are going to test this dynamics also, whether it is working correctly or not. One of the simplest example for dynamics is if gender is female. If gender is female, trigger pregnancy form. If gender is male, do not trigger a pregnancy form. So now what is manual query? So what are manual queries? What is the meaning of manual query? So last session, I think we have seen what is auto query. Auto query is system generated query, which is been raised when the incomplete or inaccurate or inconsistent or illogical data is present in the system. But manual queries are not the auto queries. It should be raised by data manager or CRA or statistician. So it will be manually raised by either of these three users, either data manager or a CRA or a statistician. Manual queries are raised based on the review. So they will review the output of the data, the output of data, which is pulled from the CDM system or databases system. Manual queries are not generated auto and not closed auto. Sponsor representative has manually closed the query. So either it is raising of query or closing of query does not happen automatically. It happens manually. So then it is called as manual queries. Manual queries are not auto closed. So or sponsor has to manually close the queries, and manual queries is raised and reissued and closed by your clinical data manager or CRA. So the most important point is manual queries is not or is raised or is issued and reissued and closed by clinical data manager. Then it is called as a manual query. So manual query is examples are the manual query. For example, there are two forms, AE ID, AE term, and AE start date and AE stop date are there. And MH ID and MH term and MH start date and MH end date are there. So say, for example, this AE ID or AE term and MH term are matching, and this are having the start date and end date of overlapping. Say, for example, the start date and stop date are overlapping. Then it is called as a manual query. A manual query has to be raised because the data is duplicate data. So this is a duplicate record. If the record is duplicate, it raises a manual query. So it raises the manual query if the duplicate record is there. So data manager will review the data and will raise the manual query. So they will raise the manual query, the data manager, once this data is invalid. For example, AE and MH records are possible duplicate, please correct or classify. So here we will give AE ID also 2 and MH ID also 10 or possible duplicate, please correct or clarify, because this situation clearly specifies that these are duplicate records. And coming back to about Clinosol, Clinosol provides the training for clinical research, data management, pharmacovigilance, medical writing, and regulatory affairs. And also we provide the experience skill development courses. And also this is the achievement for Clinosol, the admissions 252, placements 141, blogs 260, and articles are 98, and presentation is 280, and industry expert is 72, and MOUs are 19, and events and competition are 42, and workshops are 24. So this is the achievement of 2023. So these are our contact numbers, 912-1151622, and you can follow us on Clinosol Research in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and Google also. So let's meet once again with a new topic. Till then, thank you so much.